That's one we wanted to find right there. I think that deer is a 3-year-old. Look at that thing.
It was back in late January we decided to come out and actually stumbled upon this shed a couple hundred yards from this food plot. It's gonna be a heck of a deer and probably gonna be my #1 deer going into 2020.
You gonna catch it? Probably not. All right.
Another important thing that we do during this time of the year is to get soil samples on our food plots and the ag fields on the farm. And that's what I'm going to do today. Frigid Forage sells these soil sample kits. All you have to do is get a little bit of dirt, put it in a little envelope that they've got there and send it off. It's all pre-addressed and postage paid, and then you'll receive the analysis back within about 2 weeks' time, I believe. And that way you know how much fertilizer to put on, how much lime to put on, and you can get the most out of your land that way rather than just guessing. Soil samples are super important. So I'm going to be doing this, digging up a little bit of dirt here and getting it set to send off. But in the meantime, I'm going to move the episode on to Drake Lamb. And he had a buck that he was chasing last fall and had a chance to find an antler off that deer. And now he's going to talk about his plans for hunting that buck this coming season.
Hey guys, it's March 4th. I just want to check in and give you guys a little update on my off season. Been shed hunting. We found quite a few antlers, some nice ones. One in particular is this deer. This is a deer that I've had pictures of all season, all the way through November, pretty much. And he actually got shot by someone else who hunts the same property as me. I talked to the kid, you know, he thought he put a decent shot on him, never ended up finding him, so I just kind of wrote it off that he was dead. But it was back in late January we decided to come out, and we actually stumbled upon this shed a couple hundred yards from this food plot where I'd had pictures of him this fall too, so that was kind of awesome to, you know, my #1 deer goes from being shot to not being found to me writing him off being dead to being alive and not showing up on any trail cameras, you know, finding his shed less than a couple hundred yards away from this plot. So kind of cool story for this deer. Like I said, I didn't really hunt this farm too much. I tagged out and was filming Bill and just got real busy. This farm's more than an hour away from where I live, so it was just tough to get up here. But man, I'm excited for next year to see what this brings. This plot is kind of in a little strategic area. Right now it's tucked in by corn, but next year it'll be beans. And there's really good thick bedding up to the west that I think this deer lives in, and to the north. It's all property that I can hunt, so I kind of tucked this little food plot back into this kind of little staging area as they come out of the, you know, out of the thick bedding to work their way out into the bean fields at night. And I thought this would be a really good spot for a food plot. So we came in and threw in a little Frigid Forage pure trophy clover into this food plot. Hopefully that'll take off and be a decent plot here this summer. I'm not sure if I'll leave it or if I'll turn it back into big and beastie, but I'll decide that later on. But I'm definitely excited for the 2020 bow season. Hopefully this boy sticks around. You know, you never know what he's gonna do, but he's gonna be a heck of a deer and probably gonna be my #1 deer going into 2020. So definitely looking forward to that. This is probably gonna be my last update. Next week I'm getting ready to head down to Georgia, down to Realtree to film Spring Thunder. So if y'all are into turkey hunting, make sure you follow along with us. We're gonna try and bring you guys daily updates as we travel around the South and hunt those hard-headed turkeys. So if turkeys is your thing, check us out at Realtree Spring Thunder.
You have to hit multiple locations in each field, and I've got this field done. I've got 2 more that I'm gonna do and get those sent off. But while I'm changing locations, let's go to a throwback hunt. We started those a couple weeks ago. This week it's going to be from Jared Mills, and he uses a little bit of an offbeat tactic to get the edge on a great buck.
Well, Grant, Max, and I are out looking for some antlers today. And it's been a pretty good shed season so far, at least for quality. The quantity hasn't quite been there, but we're just starting to hit it hard right now. We actually made it back down to Mike and I's river farm the other day. While we didn't find too many sheds, we did find a couple that we were really looking to find. One in specific was a good 3-year-old match set, or at least we think he was a 3-year-old last fall. Had so many encounters with him. I don't even know, over 10 for sure. It seemed like every time one of us hunted out there, we saw this deer. And then the second match set was what we think is a 4-year-old deer. Looks a lot like Merino. Obviously not him, but is another buck that we encountered a ton and have a ton of footage from this year. In fact, he's actually the one when Grant and I were hunting the little pinch, got that really cool snort we audio from. He had busted some tines after that, but we still had a lot of encounters with him. So 2 good match sets that we wanted to find. Unfortunately, no Merino yet, but we still have some ground to cover. We're just starting our walk on this farm, but Grant picked up this little match set, basically sitting right on top of each other. Not a bad deer. And then this one I just picked up. I wasn't sure if it was just all squirrel chews. I looked at the bottom and it's actually a broken beam, which is pretty cool. I've never found one before, and I've always wondered why we don't find more of these. You know, broken tines, broken beams. Seems like we have so many on camera, but never find them. But this is kind of cool to find one that's actually broken. It's a little chewed up, but just thinking about the brawl that took place right where we found this shed is kind of cool. One of my favorite things about walking through these areas is coming across spots where you can reminisce on old hunts. And I'm coming up on a tree right now that I'm looking at that reminds me of, it seems like forever ago, but back in 2013 I killed a buck out of that tree. And that was a really fun season. A season kind of like this past one where it's full of encounters and a lot of close calls. I was bouncing back and forth between 2 properties, this one and another one, targeting a couple different mature bucks, but I was hunting one buck in particular that year, a buck I called RG3. And I was just kind of slowly closing in on him, getting a better pattern, but I was nearing the end of my vacation that year before I had to go back to work. And so on the final, what was coming up on my final day to be able to hunt, I decided to go all in. And the way this property sets up, all the deer pretty much leave here in the evenings to go feed in neighboring ag fields and then suck back into bed during the day here. And so my thought process was, while the deer are out feeding in the middle of the night, I was going to come in here and hang the stand. So that's what I did. I came in right around midnight and hung a stand in that tree with the hopes of coming in the next morning just being quicker and quieter to have one good final hunt left. So that's what I did that evening. I was able to sneak back in the morning, and it obviously paid off.
Well, it's the morning of November 19th. It's a beautiful morning, nice and cold, and calm finally. It's already been an eventful one as well, as I had a big 9 that I'm very familiar with on this farm. Walked into point blank range, 10 yards broadside. And unfortunately, I just couldn't get him to stop long enough to get the camera on him, as well as get drawn back and get a shot. Just goes to show how tough it is if you're filming by yourself, that you just have to have everything fall in place. And I'm learning that the hard way right now. Last day of vacation, gotta get it done today.
Right.
With all the opportunities I've had this year that have been blown with the camera or whatever, I've gotten no shot opportunities, and when I finally got one on mature buck, I wasn't going to pass it up.
That buck actually aged out at 6.5 years old, so it was pretty cool to end vacation like that with an old deer. And it was also cool that that was a culmination of a bunch of failed self-film hunts. Back then was when I was self-filming a lot, almost every day, and just had it fail so many times. It's obviously tough trying to get good footage, and also be able to shoot and run the camera, and just never worked out until that hunt. So that was pretty cool. That was a general time when I was starting to do more of the mobile hunting, the hanging hunts. And I'm not saying that one would have ended any differently had I just did a regular hanging hunt where I'd come in the morning, hang it, and hunt it. But as an example of trying something new and coming in at midnight just to save some time and effort in the morning and obviously make less noise. And clearly it paid off, but it was cool to see how the deer reacted. I had one doe. I had to go out about 10 yards to cut off a shooting lane when I was in there at midnight, and she is smelling kind of where I had cut that branch. And but obviously no other deer really reacted to me being there 6-7 hours before that. That one doe had bed 5 yards from the tree for over 2 hours. So just an example of trying something new. That's one of my favorite things about bow hunting, and you're learning something all the time and just creatively trying new things. So that was kind of the beginning of that for me. But anyway, just a fun hunt, and definitely a cool one to look back on.
The guys gave us a lot of good information this week, and we're going to try to pack as much as we can into each one of these off-season episodes, so keep checking back. Well, I appreciate you joining me today. We'll see you right back here again next week for the next episode of Midwest Whitetail, and remember to always dream big.